Good afternoon. That's not working anyway. All right. We have had some changes. I do want to introduce, we have a couple of board members with us. Bill O'Connor, please stand up. And it is Paula Kelton. See, I got it right. We have, Cynthia's going to do a presentation. She's going to go through OIR. Before we do that, I do have a letter from the current chairman that I would like to read to you at his request. He's at a family reunion in South Carolina and unable to attend the meeting today. This would have been his 30th year meeting with residents, first as legal counsel and now as the chairman of the board. I need to let you know that your board of directors will be working not only to sustain our high quality facilities and services and remain financially secure, but also seeks ways to make JKV better. John Knox Village is not just another not-for-profit CCRC. It is where over 800 dear friends, relatives, and neighbors live and thrive together as a community. Please know that we are here to support you. We are currently undergoing some transitions, and we are confident that the board is working on new and improved bylaws, policies, and future planning to ensure that we're making John Knox Village the best that it can be. Thank you for your prayers and support. Gary Wright, Chairman. I think I can. Where is she, Elvira? This is you. Like this. Hang on. All right. So, welcome to the heart of John Knox Village of Central Florida Employee Appreciation. At the core of everything we do at John Knox Village is a simple truth. Our people make the difference. At the heart of our community lies a deep commitment to service, compassion, and integrity. Every day, our employees bring dedication, talent, and passion to ensure that our residents live with dignity, comfort, and joy. To honor our unwavering commitment, we share our core values, heart, in our Employee Appreciation Program. We celebrate the individuals who embody our core values. H, honesty. We recognize those who act with integrity, speak the truth, and build trust with residents, families, and coworkers. E, excellence. We celebrate employees who consistently strive for the highest standards in quality care and service, going above and beyond. A, accountability. We applaud team members who take ownership of their work, follow through on their responsibilities, and support the culture of reliability. R, respect. We applaud team members who take ownership of their work, follow through on their responsibilities, and we honor those who treat every person with dignity, kindness, and empathy, valuing diversity and fostering a sense of belonging. And T, teamwork. We lift up those who collaborate, support their colleagues, and work selflessly to achieve the shared mission. The HEART program is more than a recognition effort. It's a reflection of the culture we strive to achieve each day. Let this program serve as a reminder that your heart matters to your colleagues, to our residents, and the future of our community. I'm going to invite Elvira and some assistants up so we can recognize our employees.
Thank you, Joe. Today, we're celebrating Kimberly Myers for 5 years of service, Majestic Oaks, Dietary. Unfortunately, Kim is unable to join us today. Beatriz Santiago Oliveras, Oakview PCA, 10 years of service. Kimberly Williams, Majestic Oaks CNA, 10 years of service. Linda Manchester, dining services server, 10 years of service. Unfortunately, Linda is unable to join us today. Magdalena Espinosa, Majestic Oaks cook, 10 years of service. Magdalena is also unable to join us today. Nicole Vega, Director of Clinical Services, 10 years of service. Mark Otto, Director of Facilities, 15 years of service. Ray Barker, Facilities Maintenance Specialist, 15 years of service. Kay Lopez, Majestic Oaks LPN, 20 years of service. Maria Ramos, Oakview CNA, 20 years of service. Claribel Santos, Majestic Oaks CNA, 25 years of service. Gwen Speed, Majestic Oaks CNA, 25 years of service. Fran Morgan, Laundry Aid, 35 years of service. Thank you so much.
Well, that was kind of overloaded on the other side, wasn't it? What? That's phenomenal. You love that. You love that. Without any further ado, I'm going to introduce Cynthia Pohl. She is the Chief Financial Officer for John Knox Village, and you've been here just over 3 years. Not quite 3.5, but 3 years. And she's going to discuss fourth quarter OIR report. Fourth quarter, the annual 2014.
Can you hear me with this mic? Yes, you can hear me with this mic. Okay. Let's see if I don't knock that off, hopefully. All right. So in March, we reviewed through our 2024 annual audit results. So this quarter, we are going to review through the 2024 annual filing that we do to the OIR. That filing was due on May 1st, and it's a very summarized, high-level review because the actual report is about 60 pages long, very detailed. There is a copy kept in the resident library at the JKV information shelf, and it's also reviewed with our resident finance committee that we did that just back in May or June earlier. So we're going to go through just a summarized version of it. So the OIR is one of our many regulatory agencies that we must be compliant with, Florida Office of Insurance Regulation. So we just call it OIR to be the shortened version. It is the governing body for all CCRCs in the state of Florida, and this is because our business model is considered to be an insurance product. The Florida Statutes, Chapter 651, Continuing Care Contracts, is the regulatory section of the statutes, of the Florida statutes that govern us. Among the many requirements is financial reporting by the CCRCs to the OIR. We do annual filings and we do quarterly filings. And today I will be giving highlights of the annual report and show how it matches up and corresponds with the annual audit as well. So today I'm going to focus on just the categories of information submitted on the report, just the highlights of them. As I said, it's a very long report. The detailed full report is in the library. Some of the things that we're going to cover include looking at the contract information that we report on, wait list, reservation deposits, unit sales and entrance fee summaries, a quick look at the financials and support information for the calculation of the minimum liquid reserve, and calculation of the financial operating ratios that we are required to meet. And I don't think I actually have the list of the board of directors that the list says on my last slide. So, oops. All right, so the first one is a review of the fees that we submit, and what that shows is we have to report on our highest and our lowest entrance fee for the year and our highest and lowest monthly service fees for the year. So you can see for entrance fees, our lowest was $75,000 and our highest was $425,000. Our second person, if we have a second person couple, that rate is at $26,000. That's a flat amount. And our monthly maintenance fees, our monthly service fees, our lowest was $2,289 and our highest was $5,078. And then our second person fee, which is also a flat amount, was $1,383, and this is all 2024, as we said. And then we also report on how many residents that we have living on campus, and that gets reported out by what they call the level of care, so independent living, assisted living, or skilled nursing, long-term care. And it is separated out by whether they are contract residents or non-contract residents. So we can see that in independent living, we had 668 residents. That's counting first and second persons. It's all the residents. They're all contract, right? To come into independent living means that you have come in on a life care contract. Our assisted living, we had a total of 32 residents that were contract residents and 15 residents that were direct admits from the community. And then in skilled nursing Majestic Oaks, we had 33 residents that were life care residents, and we had 77 residents that were direct admit from the community. So that was a total of 733 life care residents plus 92 community residents for a total of 825 residents on December 31st. That's 100 more residents exactly than what we had on the 31st of 2023. Next is reporting on the wait list and the reservation deposits. So our wait list is a flat fee that our sales and marketing team will collect for somebody not quite ready to move in, or maybe they're waiting on a specific unit and it's not available. So they want to make sure that they're high on the list to be contacted, so they will pay a wait list fee. It is non-refundable, but if that person does move in and become a resident with a contract, it does apply towards their entrance fee. And so with our wait list, you can see that in 2024, we started with 26 on hand for $39,000. We collected another 21 throughout the year, valued at $31,500, and we utilized 22 of them throughout the year at $33,000. So at the end of the year, we were left with 25 wait list deposits valued at $37,500. Then we have our reservation deposits. So the reservation deposits are the 10% deposit that the residents pay when they are signing the contract. So for reservation deposits, we started the year with 21 of those valued at a little over $578,000. Deposits received during the year, 77, valued at a little over $2.1 million. And deposits utilized during the year were 89, valued at $2.4+ million. So the end of the year on 12/31, we only had 9 10% deposits on the books of people that had signed contracts and were waiting to move into their unit, valued at $233,750. All right, next section we get into the financial reporting. Our financials on the OIR must tie out to the audit. We do submit a copy of our audit with the annual filing of the OIR. But you will see as we go through this that the layout of the OIR reporting, which is their standard format, does not always line up with the format of the audit. So you'll see a few little differences as we go through, but the main thing is that the important total numbers will always tie out. So starting with our balance sheet, this is the top. We have our assets section. So this top section is how it was reported on the OIR reporting. So we had current assets of a little over $22.5 million, non-current assets of $196.7 million, for total assets of $219.2 million. And with our liabilities, $3.7 million, non-current, $74.3 million, giving total liabilities of $78 million, and then add that in with the net assets equity, gets you to the $219.2 million. So again, this top section is how it's reported on the OIR report. This bottom section is how it's taken directly from the audit report. The audit report is also in the library, available for your review. So on the audit report, on the balance sheet, you can go right to the totals lines and find total assets of the $219.2 and the liabilities and net assets of the $219.2. So we tie out in all 4 sections. Next is the statement of operations. So this will reflect the change of net assets of income or loss. This is a good example, although again you don't see the full detail, but this report truly there's a lot of it that doesn't line up between the OIR and the audit from the categories that the OIR will break things out into. But if we go to our total revenues, again the top section is the reporting on the OIR report. Our total revenues, $58.8 million. Total expenses is $49.3 million. We have net assets released from restrictions. That actually offsets the total revenues. So that's an offset of $31,000. And that gives us our net assets and net income, change in net assets for net income of $9.453 million for the year. On our audit report, we have total revenue of $57.36 million, non-operating income of $873.8 thousand, other changes without donor restrictions, $467.9 thousand, other changes with donor restrictions, $104.8 thousand. That gets you to a total revenue of $58,809. Up here on OIR, if you subtract this 31 from the total revenues, that will get you to that same $58,809. And then total expenses, $49,355,000, get you to an overall change of net assets of the 9.453 million. All right, this page I threw in because certainly the Finance Committee, the Resident Finance Committee, and in Joe's chats, we talk about net operating margin. So net operating margin and net operating income is not actually reported separately on the OIR, but I did want to show the difference because at John Knox, that is one of our key performance indicators that we watch, is the operating income and margin. They are different than the change in net assets because they do not include the revenue for the entrance fee amortization, the revenue for our investments, or the expense for our depreciation. We consider those things to be below the line. In public accounting, those would fall into a category called EBITDA, earnings before interest, income, taxes, EBITDA, depreciation and amortization. So this is kind of the same version of doing EBITDA. So this slide shows the difference where this is our change in net assets of the 9.4. So to get to the operating income, you start with that change of net assets of the 9.4. You subtract the entrance fee revenue, which was a little over 10.2 million. You subtract the investment revenue, a little over 4.1 million, and you add back the depreciation expense, a little over 8.1 million. And that will get you to a net operating income for 2024 of a little over 3.2 million, which is a percentage of 7.31%. And then we have the cash flow statement. The cash flow statement is the flow chart type of statement that will take you from what is calculated as being your change in net assets to the balance of what you, the balance of what you actually have as cash on hand at the end of your reporting period. And this is because on the statement of operations, not every line item and not every transaction is actual cash in or out during that same reporting period. A really good example of this is depreciation expense, right? When we buy something today and it's got a 15-year life, we're going to pay $100,000 for it today, and the cash is leaving our bank today. But over the next 15 years, we're going to actually recognize that expense. So that's an example of one of the walkthroughs that goes through on the cash flow statement to convert from what is the effect of your change in net assets to get to your cash at the end of the period. So for the OIR report, we're showing that our cash at the end of the period on our cash flow statement ends at $13,128,940. And if you go to our audit report, it will reflect $13,128,940. Another part of the annual reporting, it's a separate report that goes along with it, and that is the annual calculation to determine what our minimum liquid reserve needs to be in our escrow account in the bank. The minimum liquid reserve, which we refer to as the MLR, are the required funds that we must keep in an escrow account to ensure coverage of operations, capital renewals and replacement, and for debt coverage, which remember, we don't have any debt. The MLR is calculated every year based on the fiscal year and goes into effect 180 days after the fiscal year end. So for John Knox, the MLR goes into it, the new calculated MLR requirement goes into effect on 7/1 because our year end is on 12/31. So for this reporting cycle, we were still reporting on the MLR that was required from 7/1 of 24 and it lasts until June 30th of 2025. And we were required to have $9,900,188 in that escrow account. We must report what our balance is in that escrow account on our annual and quarterly filings. And at the end of the year, we had $11,138,194. Again, this is the report coming directly from, actually both of these are coming from the OIR reporting. This top line is coming from the annual report that has the page about the MLRs, and then this bottom section is coming from the actual calculation within the MLR report that we go through. So on 7/1, in just a few weeks, our MLR will change again to the new calculated requirement, and that is going to go up to $10.5 million that we will be required to have in the escrow account. So we still have some cushion over what is required to be there, but certainly we have to keep a close eye on it, because at the end of one month, our investments go up, and at the end of the next month, our investments are going down. We all know that the market is very volatile right now, and it's really looking like a lot of peaks and valleys. So we do have to keep a close eye on that. The OIR cares about the market value of that escrow account, not the book value of the escrow account. So that is something that we keep an eye on every month. All right, and then at the end of the report is a summary of the established financial metrics that the OIR watches for. They established these back in 2019, and they are looking at 3 criteria. They are looking at days cash on hand, and they require 100 days cash on hand. We have 807 days cash on hand, so I think we're okay on that criteria, and we meet it just fine. Also to note here, if you compare it to our audit will report that we had 720 days cash on hand, and that is another difference where the OIR allows us to count those monies that are in the minimum liquid reserve towards our cash on hand, right? That's what they're requiring us to have. So they count that in the calculation. The audit does not count that money because it's considered a restricted investment, and restricted investments per GAAP are not allowed to be counted in the calculation. So we've always got a difference between the OIR calculation for days cash and an audit calculation for days cash. But even the audit, which is more conservative, is still at 720 days at year end. And by the way, that increased from 2023, which we were at 636 days per the audit calculation. The second metric is the occupancy. So the OIR requires a full community occupancy of 80%, and that is based on a rolling 12 months, not just the snapshot at the end of the year or at the end of the reporting period. So since this is the annual, our rolling 12 months was January through December of 2024. And full campus, we came in at 83.5%, so we met that metric as well. And then the third metric is for a debt service coverage ratio. They require a ratio of 1 to 2. We don't have a ratio at all because, again, we have no debt, right? So that's a given. So technically, we meet all 3 categories of their required metrics. Any questions? All right, that's all I got. Thank you very much.